Right. Those are just some simple things that we can just remind ourselves of that.
And the meditation's helping too. Just meditate.
Yes. It's the best thing to give peace of mind is to meditate. So namaste, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. We've been focused on the first chakra this week. We're going to start a new series. I usually do the series once a year. It's been over 2. Honestly, all last year I kept wanting to do it, but I wasn't reaching enough people. And I kept thinking to myself, that's an important series that needs to wait until things are somewhat back to normal. And then we had 2 weeks of that at the beginning of July, and then look at where we are now. So I'm like, we just need to start our chakra series now and trust that whoever is here to hear it are hearing what they need to hear and applying what they need to. First chakra is all about our roots, our conditioning, where we come from. It's about our right to be here, our right to belong, our right to survive, our right to basic needs, our right for a sense of security, for a sense of safety. And if you have been traumatized in your past by first chakra issues, it usually concerns early childhood. It's not saying you couldn't have had something later, but most of it is early childhood. If you were abandoned, if you were neglected, if your needs weren't met, for instance, if you, weren't getting fed properly or weren't getting clothed or cleaned properly or taken care of properly, that could cause some damage. If there was abuse happening in the home, that could cause a lot of damage. So it's not saying you can't overcome that, because you can. There's so many people who have. There was a book that I remember reading. It was when I first became a flight attendant, and it was called The Man Named Dave. Did y'all ever read that series? It's a horrible story, but it's about a boy who was one of like 5 children, and he was the one that was severely beaten and abused. He was put in a closet. He wasn't given proper food. He wasn't given proper clothing, and the other siblings were. Anyway, the whole book is about how he survived it, how he got out of his family and into a home that actually cared about him. And he actually became a motivational speaker and wrote these books, and he's thriving today. So there are many, many accounts and stories out there of people who have been severely traumatized in this first chakra that are now thriving. So we have to remember this whole past year and everything we've been through and everything we're still going through is completely shattering our first chakra. This governs our legs and our feet. It governs the skeletal system. It governs our blood flow, our circulation, our family life, our sense of belonging, our tribal sense of identity. That's all I'm going to say right now about the first chakra. Today I wanted to focus on balance, and then I wanted us to restore. Because we didn't focus as much on balance, and you think about a lot of our balancing poses in yoga are standing on one leg and foot. And we're just more comfortable standing on both legs and feet, right? It can be difficult to balance. But one of the lessons here is also looking at this metaphorically. How are we striking a balance in life? Are we allowing ourselves to play as much as we are to work? I have the tendency, even though I only teach so many classes a week, I have the tendency to think yoga all the time. I think everything is yoga, and it drives my family crazy because I turn everything into yoga. But someone drew a card for me last week, and the card was basically telling me I needed to play more. I needed to go out with girlfriends. I needed to go out and do things besides just be work oriented. And so after that card was drawn for me and I was thinking about it, I was like, yeah, I don't have a balance at all. So I've gone out to a few shows, taken advantage of it, because I think it's going to be very short-lived. So I'm trying to take advantage of it and trying to create a little bit more of a balance for myself. Consider how we also need a balance between noise and silence. We need a balance between being busy and being relaxed, movement and stillness. We need a balance between the physical and the spiritual. If we're always spiritual, what are we doing physically in the world? For nothing but physical, how are we evolving into the spiritual being we're meant to be? So there needs to be a balance between the two. So let's go ahead and sit with back support, if you have it. The legs can be straight, or you can sit cross-legged. You can sit on the floor, you can sit on the bolster. Close the eyes and take a moment to feel the earth beneath your body. Maybe it's just your feet if you're on a bolster, but maybe it's your whole seat. I want you to look at the chakra system as kind of like a Jacob's ladder. What can bring the heavens to the earth, or the earth to the heavens? What can connect or bridge matter to spirit? The physical to the invisible. And recognize that the first chakra if it's operating fully in a balanced way, then it's only going to help to improve the energy flow or the currents that are moving upstream. At the same time, any of the currents needing to move from upstream downstream, it won't be blocked. So imagine right now, as you inhale and exhale, imagine a beam of red light coming up the spine towards the crown of the head as you breathe in, shining from the crown of the head down to the tailbone as you breathe out. Channel the breath 3 more times. And visualize that your sits bones are rooting down into the earth below. And that the spine is actually a stem. And the crown of the head is like a 1,000-petaled lotus flower. I was listening to a podcast this morning of someone who channels talking about the situation in Afghanistan. And everyone being so concerned and feeling compassion for the people, the mess that was left behind, the struggles they're soon to face or are facing now. She said through her channeling that she was getting a strong signal from the women, that the women and the girls there are going to be pulling up their divine feminine power, creating healthy boundaries and trying to stand their ground. So this is part of first chakra issues. She was saying, remember, a lotus cannot bloom unless it has muck and mud below. And the situation is the mud. So consider for a moment the mud that you may be sitting in now, your challenges, your difficulty, the trials that you face. Look at this practice as being an intentional way to remember your roots, but also to give you the right to grow and to thrive as well as survive. Gently begin to open the eyes. You open the eyes. We're going to go ahead and come to stand. We're going to get these balancing poses out of the way so that you can start to restore. So once you stand on both feet, lodge your legs into place and anchor your feet firmly into the floor. We're going to pick up the left foot and take a hold of it with the left hand. Uttanasana A. Find a point to gaze at with your eyes, something unmoving and unwavering. And then when you're ready, open up the hip to Uttanasana B. Dependent on your standing leg and foot. Equally lifting through the crown of the head. Bring the knee back and lower the foot down. Good. We'll swap sides. We'll shift the weight to the left leg and foot. Splay the toes wider. Take your time, picking up the right knee, taking your hand to hold it. Soften your brow, the crease between the eyes, even though you're focused. Eventually turn open from the hip, Uttanasana B. Bring the knee to center and exhale, release. Remember, you are at a wall. You're welcome to use a hand to the wall to help with balance if you're unsturdy. We'll shift our weight to the right leg. We're going to open up for tree. So another thing that you could do to help strike balance is to just stay on the ball of the foot. This is still the pose. But if you want to bring it up higher, you're welcome to. Blossom up with your chest, have your hands held together at your heart. All right, shifting our weight to the other side, bending the knees, starting off with the most gentle form. Checking in with yourself. Maybe this is where you need to be. Maybe sliding the foot to the calf or taking it to the upper thigh. Staying calm, poised. I am calm, poised. All right, we're going to bend the knees. We're only doing the leg portion for this pose, Savasana. Cross your left leg over your right. Sit down a little deeper with your hips. Make sure when your legs cross over, the thighs squeeze, but the knees point straight ahead. We're just going to keep a simple gesture, hands to prayer. Affirming here as you hold the posture. At the center of life's storms, I choose to remain calm and serene. Center of life's storms, I choose to stay calm and serene. In case you haven't noticed, we're in a massive storm. But we can be the grounding line. Uncross the legs. So on top of everything happening, outside in the world, and on top of all the personal things going on, bend the knees, sit back. I have shouldn't say my favorite, but it is my favorite uncle. Was driving 70 miles an hour down 65. They think he might have fainted. He hit a wall straight on. Cross your right leg over. He's been in the hospital a couple weeks. He just got out of the trauma unit. But there's only 2 people that were going to the hospital to see me. And it was his wife, my aunt, and his brother. And his brother was trying to help a friend figure out how bats were getting into a building on their land. Fell from the ladder, 9 ribs broken. And then I got a call yesterday that my other uncle has a brain aneurysm in his whole left side, so I'm paralyzed. That's just my family, right? And after talking to some of you, I know you're having like big impacts and things happening, right? There's a big storm. So I want you to really affirm this. At the center of life's storms, I choose to remain calm and serene. Doesn't mean we can't have our moments. We can always come back to find that calm state of serenity. Uncross. Restore. Before we go right into restoration, we're going to do a forward fold. And if you're doing this from home and don't have a wall to back up to, you can do it solo the way we do it on a regular basis. We're going to fold into Uttanasana. So I want your blocks to be in front of you in case you need it. Now, you're not going to stand with your heels pushed to the wall because when we start to hinge over, our butt has to go somewhere. So you're going to step away from the wall, maybe about 2 inches. Then take your hands to your hip crease. Now send your sits bones to the wall. Feel that? You feel the sits bones to the wall? Now bring the hands down to the blocks. When you bring the hands down to the blocks, you may or may not need these blocks any longer. Just to kind of stabilize on the way down. Continue to spill down with your upper body by buckling your arms. And if your hands can touch the floor at that point, you can move the blocks out of the way and bow over to Uttanasana. Now, if your hands easily access the floor, just make sure that you're not locking your arms. So soften your elbows and shoulders. Let your head hang. And so we're using the wall for support for the standing forward fold. Activating the backside of the legs, opening up the low back. The low back is also included with the first chakra. And give some gratitude for your legs and for your feet. That's taking you through so many different walks in life. That's helped you to travel to foreign places, to explore and to have adventure and to dance in celebration. Or to run when we need to run, to protect ourselves, or to flee from any danger. Take one more breath. Now we're going to walk the hands out in front of us so that we can slowly shift away from the heels and land down to the knees. Now, if you need to bring some blankets or anything underneath the knees, that's fine. What we're gonna do is we're gonna fold forward and stretch the arms out, but continue to keep the toes tucked under. So with the toes tucked under like this, your hips back towards your heels, your arms outstretched, and your head bowing, it may or may not touch the ground. It's okay if your head doesn't touch the ground. But I wanted us to get in this pose today because of what's happening across the world. This is a pose that's an adaptation or a variance to the regular child's position. And this is not a yogic term, but one of my first teachers called this pose Mecca because it resembled the position that the Muslims get into when they roll out their prayer rug and say their prayers. And I decided to create an affirmation for this pose. So I want you to affirm internally to yourself, our prayer is for all of mankind to live in harmony and in peace. The emphasis in this pose is on the feet. Hopefully you can feel that, stretching the toes and the fascia. Remembering there's a whole map of the foot according to reflexology. And then inhale, slowly come up. Untuck the toes. And we are ready to get more restorative. So, you guys here at the studio, I've set you up to do like at the wall. If you're at home and you don't have a wall to use, you can set up a slide, just like we would at other times, like this, and you can send the legs up the slide. Otherwise, you can take legs up the wall. So you want to get close to the wall at the corner of your mat, lay down on one side of your body, curl up like a fetal position. Then rolling the spine back to your mat and sending the legs straight up the wall. The feet are slightly apart. Push up through the heels of the feet initially, just to fire up the muscles. Splay open through the toes and push up through the mound of the big toes. And now relax the feet. Station your hands on your belly. And close the eyes. So Leslie just came in mentioning that she's already feeling the effects of this full moon that's coming in a few days. I'm going to turn the lights off. This is a pose that I usually mention around every full moon as being quite medicinal for insomnia because it helps to calm the mind and the nervous system down. But it's also good for our circulation. And remember, circulation is governed by the first chakra. This can help with varicose veins that can become painful in the legs. Again, a first chakra issue. But this can be aiding for our circulation since the body doesn't have to work as hard to pump the blood back towards the heart. Now we can use gravity as an assistant. I'm going to give you some affirmations to work with here in this pose. I want us to start off with I have and hold the right to be here. I have and hold the right to exist. I have and hold the right to take up space. I have the right to have what I need to survive. And I have and hold the right to not only survive, but to thrive. Playing some music in the background that is specifically geared towards the first chakra, the C note, and the chakra earth tone.
I'd like you to slide your right foot down the wall. And then take your left leg and slide it off to your left side. Now from this point, you can either keep your right leg as it is, or you can spin to the outer frame of the right foot, turning the hip and the knee open to the right side. Basically, it's like half Uttanasana or half dragonfly. If by chance at home you're not using a wall, you can do this from a sitting position, using a bolster under your head like this.
While you're here in this pose, I want to share with you something I read from a book, and I thought it was a great analogy. I said, look at the body as being like a computer, a hard drive. And the chakras, I know technology is advanced, but we're all old enough to remember the floppy disk. The chakras being the floppy disks that hold all the programming and information. Of course, you being yourself as the user. So if the chakras contain the programming, the first chakra would be survival program, telling us when and what to eat, telling us when and how many hours to sleep, telling us when and what things to do, how much money we need to earn, spend, or save, what constitutes a threat for our survival, and equally what makes us feel secure. And like any programming, we may need to edit, delete, add, or completely rewrite. Let's be here, a few more breaths.
Expect that left heel to slide more at some point. On your next inhalation, let's splay the arms out like a T or in the goddess position, or goalpost arms. We'll lift the right knee up and let the left foot slide all the way down. And then we're going to stack the right leg on top of the left. So this is a twist, but it's called alligator. This may be plenty with your feet stacked and close to the wall. If you're more flexible, you can slide the feet more towards your left hand. You can even hold it with your fingers. Splay the arms in hopes to keep these shoulder blades at rest on the floor. If you find that the straight legs is too much for you, you can always bend the knees instead. If you find that sending the knees all the way to the floor is too much, you can always stack a bolster blanket or block below or in between. the last time we went through the series, I was mentioning when the energy is flowing upstream in a productive way, it is the liberation line. When the energy is running effectively downstream, it's the manifestation line. The first chakra is the most dense and the most physical of the seven. It's about our physical identity, our physical structure, and self-preservation. So the next inhalation, let's glide the legs back up the wall. We're turning back to this waterfall position. We'll set up for the second side. So let's slide the left foot down the wall. And the right leg off to the right side. Keeping the left leg as is or opening from the hip like half butterfly. A few more breaths here before the twist. ready to roll into the twist, you may want to draw the left knee towards the heart and then slide it over to join the right leg, sinking the feet and knees down to the floor, determining here whether or not you want the alligator pose with legs straight or knees bent. Whether or not you want the feet hanging close to the wall or pulling in towards your right hand. Determining if you need any additional support so that you can remain in it and breathe. Ready, roll to your right side body. Push into your hands. Really, I'm going to give you a choice for your Savasana. Still working with the lower body though. So if you just love legs up the wall, I know some people love it and could stay in it for an hour. And I know other people struggle with it after 5 minutes. So that's why I want to give you a choice. So if you want to move back to legs up the wall, great. If you would rather move into, say, Stonehenge, this is why I had you gather props. Or if you wanted the slide, right? If you didn't do the slide earlier, prefer the slide or prefer Stonehenge. Something to elevate the legs is really what we're going for here. Legs at the wall, Stonehenge, or legs up the slide. Pick your favorites. This will be our final position, and this is going to be our restful position. Take as much time as you need to settle in. Cover the eyes to shield your body with the
blanket if need be, or to pad a blanket under your head if you need support for your neck.
I'm going to continue to play the sound meditation in the background for the first chakra. I want you to put your emphasis in getting grounded. Becoming grounded connects us to our physical body as well as to our environment. Grounding is essential for finding healthy boundaries. When we are grounded, we can be much more present and much more focused. Affirm mentally within, I am grounded. I am grounded and feel safe and secure. I am grounded and I'm confident in myself. I'm grounded and have the right to strike a balance in my life. Hearing the sound of mindfulness bell ring. Take that as your sign to begin to open up your breath. Start to maneuver your hands and feet. Curling up. Giving your back some love. Turning to one side. And one knee there. Coming up to sit. Bringing your hands down to prayer position at your heart. Complete our practice chanting Nam, the mantra for the chakra. Take a deep breath in. Light within me honors and respectfully bows to the same within you. You guys for joining today. Oh, I'm going to share with you. This book is fantastic. It's called, what's it called? Eastern Body, Western Mind. Always mix it up. I want to say Western Body, Eastern Mind. But it's an excellent book. This is going to be on our required reading list for our advanced teacher training program. You don't have to have a teacher's certification to learn and to gain an amazing amount of information from this book. It's fantastic. It gets more into detail in the psychology of the chakras and into like the traumas that can create the blockages and how to help to overcome it. So anyway, I'm going to post it on Facebook too.